Welcome back to the channel and finally to a full-length WNBA video. I appreciate everyone's patience with me as I just worked entirely too many hours last week. Had no time to break down any of these games and put a proper video out for you guys. So we did throw a community post up on Tuesday where I put a pick out, and then I put a short out on Thursday with a couple picks. This is what you guys come for, man, and this is what I enjoy doing as well. I love these full-length videos where we break down the games, we analyze them, and then we go over some picks as well. And then afterwards, man, we get that interaction in the comments and stuff. Man, this is what it's all about. I enjoy this. I'm excited to be back making a full-length video. And I'm excited to see what comes of it, man. And hopefully we can keep this good energy rolling, man. I was 6-1 on Sunday. Normally we'd recap those picks, but I'm not going to go all the way back to Sunday. That's the last time we made a video. But we were 6-1. 1-0 with that pick on Tuesday's community post, and then we split our picks on Thursday. So we are on an 8-2 run here in the WNBA, trying to keep that energy flowing right here into these semifinals right here. So let's get into these games, man. We're going to break them down and analyze them. We got two games for Sunday, September 29th. We're going to go over which way that I'm leaning as far as the points and the spread, and we're also going to talk about any player props I found for those games, and then any picks that I put in officially myself, I'm going to list right down there in that pinned comment, so make sure you check back in. That way you can see if you'd like to ride along with me. Now, before we get into these games, there's one more thing I need you guys to do. There's a like button right down there below, man. Make sure you smash that thing for me and hit subscribe if you have not already. That way you don't miss out on any of this content that we are over here dropping on a daily at the Guy Boss Sports Channel, man. And there's a lot of content coming out right now between the three of us. So make sure you get in on that. It ain't going to cost you a dime, man. Everything we do over here is free, so you ain't got nothing to lose. So let's get right into it, guys. We got the Aces and the Liberty. First up, the Liberty are laying 4 in this one. The over-under sitting at 162.5. Now, in this matchup, we get our rematch of the WNBA Finals of last year, and we get it here in the semifinals with how this WNBA playoff system is formatted. We don't have conferences in the playoffs anymore, man. Conferences don't matter. It goes according to standings 1 through 8, and the brackets kind of play out from there. So we get the Aces and the Liberty, who met in the finals last year. We get it early in the semifinals. So going to be a great matchup. And then the other series is a great matchup as well. So we're going to have a great WNBA finals as well, no matter what happens with these final 4 teams here. And we got the top 4 teams in the standings. That's the final 4 here. So without any further ado, let's dive into it. Kind of rambling already, talking about this first game here. Hey, just excited to be back, man. It's been a minute. But we have our top-seeded team, the Liberty, hosting the 4th seed Aces here in a best-of-5 series, where the winner, like I said, is going to head back to the WNBA Finals for the 2nd straight year if it's the Liberty that prevails, and for the 4th time in 5 years if the Aces come away with this series here. Vegas did close out New York in 4 games last year in the finals, winning convincingly in the first 2 games by a combined 45 points before losing Game 3 by 14. And then they won it all in a thrilling 1-point win in Game 4 with a buzzer-beating defensive stand to take home their 2nd straight title. This year, however, the tides have shifted, man, at least through the regular season, right? In the 3 meetings between these two, the Liberty swept the season series, winning by 8 and 12 in Las Vegas before a 4-point victory at home over the Aces in early September, and what has been the only loss that Vegas has had in their last 10 games. But it should be noted, however, that A'ja Wilson did not play in that meeting. Both teams shot under 40% overall from the field in that one, with both defenses ramping it up. The game did have a playoff intensity type feel to it, but the Aces actually shot the ball better from deep, 45% to New York's 21%. These two were pretty even almost everywhere else statistically except for rebounding, where the Liberty won that battle 39-27. And man, just from the eye test alone, watching these meetings between these two over the year, that's been the key in each match so far. It's like the Liberty just seem to hustle to the ball more. They play tougher, and they want it more than Vegas, right? That's been what I've seen so far between these two. Now, these two, they were the top 2 teams in terms of offensive rating and points scored per game this season. Both were top 3 in terms of overall shooting percentage, top 5 for 3-point shooting percentages. The Aces were 2nd in terms of assists to turnover ratio. The Liberty were 1st. The biggest difference throughout the year was on the glass. And New York finished the year tied with Chicago for most boards a game and sat at 5th for offensive rebounds as well. The Aces, just 8th overall, dead last in terms of offensive boards. The Liberty were middle of the pack, 6th for second chance points, right? And the Aces being dead last on the offensive glass, you could probably guess that they were dead last as well for second chance points. New York also, they just so happen to give up the fewest such points, second chance points, that is. Uh, Basically, no easy buckets when you're playing this Liberty team, man. You're working for everything. And this rebounding disparity has been the story of each match between these two this year. In those three matchups that they played, the Liberty won the battle on the glass each time, out rebounding the Aces by a uh, 34 whole rebounds over those games. So quite the disparity between these two when it comes to work on the glass, like I've said. Both these teams, they swept in the first round, but the Liberty definitely did so in a more convincing fashion, in my opinion. Now, sure, New York did face Atlanta, while the Aces faced a tougher Seattle team, but the Storm were down their big Ezi Magbagor for game one, and they were still, the Aces were still out-rebounded over the course of that game. So definitely struggle on the glass, man. It's definitely an issue on their end. Then the Liberty in their series, they shifted rookie 6'4" forward Leone Fibic to the backcourt to start alongside Sabrina Ionescu and bring a pretty tall starting five into this one in doing so, with three players standing at 6'4" or taller in Fibic, Stewie, and Jonquel Jones. And then, you got Ionescu and Benaje Laney Hamilton rounding out what's an extremely talented and versatile starting five. Then they boast a ton of depth as well, bringing Kayla Thornton, Nayara Sabali, Kennedy Burke. Then they got veteran Courtney Vandersloot coming off the bench. So very solid team from top to bottom, man. And what's that? That's 9 deep right there. So a lot of depth on this New York side. And then, look at the Aces. They boast a ton of star power as well, right? Kelsey Plum, Chelsea Gray. You got Jackie Young over there, Alicia Clark. Tiffany Hayes helped round out a unit that features 3-time and current MVP, Asia Wilson. So, not a shabby team over here with Vegas, but the thing is, their offense has been widely inconsistent this year, and the team flow and chemistry on that end has just kind of been non-existent for stretches of the season. And that's when they've gone through their slumps. That's particularly that's when the offense has really struggled. And if you look at their box scores, man, you consistently see one or two players going off while the rest struggle. And then you compare that to New York, and you'll see a more well-balanced offensive attack that's not so heavily reliant on one of their stars going crazy. You'll actually see the Liberty win, and one of their stars struggled. Like, Stewie will have like 9 points, and they still won by 10. Like, they're a much more well-balanced unit. The thing is, though, the Aces, they turned up on the defensive end to close out the season. And that's really where this winning streak came from. And they've shown that strength so far in these playoffs as well. They held Seattle to just 2 points in the fourth quarter of their Game 1 victory. But this New York team is on a different level offensively than Seattle, or most teams in the W for that matter. And defensively, they aren't shabby either, man. New York is sitting at third overall in terms of defensive rating. They have the bigs down low to frustrate Asia and make her work for everything. Like I said, man, no easy buckets against the Liberty. And then with Fibic starting at the guard, the height over a backcourt that features two players under 6 foot could prove huge, especially considering the rebounding disparities between these two already. Vegas starts Jackie Young at the small forward spot as well, but, really she's a 6-foot guard herself. So 3 guards out there going up against this New York team that's boasting a bunch of height everywhere now. Kind of scary for Vegas, man. So all things considered with this one, I'm leaning New York in this game 1. And, with the points, I would take New York on the spread here. And then for the total, all 3 prior meetings this season went under their total and under this number. Specifically, 2 of the 3 matches went under this number here. The Liberty in their last 10 at home hit under this number at a 70% rate, while the Aces on the road in their last 10 have also hit under this mark at a 70% rate. And then in their last 10 overall, the Aces have gone under this line at a 90% rate. So I expect another physical, intense, defensive-fueled duel between these two again in this one. There's the rivalry from last year's finals. They've played tough matches this year so far. Each game has been physical. It's been intense. So I'm going to lean under in this one as well. The player prop that I would be looking at in this one would be Jackie Young of the Aces, her points under 12.5. Now, guys, we just jumped over to Outlier, and if you have not heard of Outlier, it is the best betting research app that you will find on the market. I'm going to tell you right now that it has helped me become a much better just over the last few months since I've started using it myself, since I came over here to the Guy Boston Sports Channel. I kind of freewheeled it before, guys. I just kind of, went off my own personal research, which, you very well can do. But, man, I was diving through about 12 to 15 sites to find the information that I needed. Man, now I've limited that down to Outlier and maybe the WNBA site itself. to look at stats, standings, things like that. But most of the information I need, I can find right here on this site. It's a wonderful tool, guys. And the great thing is you can hop down in our description or down into the pin comment as well. There'll be a link right at the top that you can click into, and you'll get a free 7-day trial for this. You can decide for yourself if you like it just as much as I do. Have a feeling that you will, man. And it's only $19.99 a month after that. You really can't ask for a better deal, man. If you're putting some coin on these on these bets, man, and you cash one of them, you just paid off your $19.99 a month, right? So and like I said, it's made me a much better myself, much better myself. Um, so like I said, man, I stand by this one here. You really can't beat it. But let's dive right into this one. I like this pick here. Jackie Young, her points under 12.5. Now, we can find this on FanDuel at -118. That's another great thing about this Outlier app, man. It come right over here to add my picks. Now, this one is currently only on FanDuel, but if this was available on any other sports books, it would be listed right down there in a row, right? And you'd be able to see the best odds, and we'd be able to find this at the best price. So, you could jump around. Say it was available on DraftKings, BetMGM, and all the other books, we would know which one to go to get that best price, get it at the best odds, and cash out the most, right? And that's what we want, man. We want the biggest profit that we can find. But anyways, let's get into it, man. Under 12.5 points. Now, in her last 10 games, she has hit under this mark at a 70% rate. All that green is good, man. That means that she has hit under that mark. That red is bad. Green is good, red is bad. If we look up here, as well, Outlier provides these insights, and it's basically just like a trend, man. So in her last in her last 6 games on the road, she has hit under this mark at a 5. Struggling with words, guys. In her last 6 games on the road, she has hit under this mark 5 times. That was really tough to get out, man. But hey, we look over here to New York against guards, specifically for points allowed. They are ranking 3rd. So you got to like this, man. We already talked about it. New York is stout on the defensive end. And, you got to consider, too, with Jackie Young, she's been kind of inconsistent this year with the points, right? At the beginning of the year, almost looking like an MVP caliber type player. Was scoring a ton of points, man. But the Aces do have Chelsea Gray kind of coming into form finally. She was battling back from injury at the beginning of the year. Came back midseason, really, and then was kind of working her way back into it. It has looked pretty damn good here as of late. She's getting more scoring touches herself. And then Tiffany Hayes has also come in as well, providing another scoring boost for the Aces. So I just don't think there's as many looks for Jackie Young as there was before. And then going up against this New York defense, man, we got to like that, like I said, just ranked 3rd for points allowed there. So I like this one here, Jackie Young under 12.5 points. The next prop I'm looking at in this game is going to be Benaje Laney Hamilton of the Liberty, looking at her rebounds over 3.5. Now, you can catch this on Prize Picks at -119, Underdog at -120. But if you don't have either of those books available, I know, in some states it's not available. It's not available for me in Ohio, unfortunately. Never fear, man. We can find that on FanDuel as well. A little more juice at -125 than, Prize Picks and Underdog. But nonetheless, a good play, one that I'm looking at here. If we look at her in her last 10, she's hitting this at a 50% rate, right? Okay. In her last 5, only a 20% rate. So, Trey, what are we looking at here? Well, head-to-head, she is hitting this at a 64% rate. In her last 11 games over the Aces, she has smacked over that number at a 64% clip, 7 of 11 times. And the 2 games that she's played against the Aces this year, she has hit well over this mark, 7 rebounds and 6 rebounds, right? And so if we look at this insight from Outlier, now she has exceeded this number in 4 of her last 5 games when it comes to teams in the bottom 5 in terms of rebounds allowed. And then if we look over here, they are definitely bottom 5. They're 3rd to last for rebounds allowed, right? Now, if we look at that forward position that Laney Hamilton plays, they are dead last for rebounds allowed. So at -125, man, that looks like a pretty good pick right here. And chances are we're going to find this one down in the pinned comment later. So make sure you check back in, man. I feel like I'm probably going to roll with this one here. And one more pick I'm looking at in this one. Now, this one is kind of juice, so I'm not sure I get there myself. We're sitting at -154 odds right now on FanDuel. Looking at Breanna Stewart of the Liberty, her 3-pointers under 1.5 made. Now, in her last 8 games at home, she has failed to exceed this 1.5 3-pointer mark in 7 of those last 8 games at an 88% rate, right? Last 5, 80% hit rate, or under rate. And then last 10, 70%. We can just keep pushing it back. We're in the green, man. 14 of 20 in the last 20, 70%. And if we look at her head-to-head against the Aces, she hasn't hit over this mark since August 15th of 2023, and she only hit 2 3-pointers, right? She had that 4-point explosion in the beginning of August of 2023. But besides those two right there, man, 10 of the last 12 times against the Aces, she has failed to hit over 1.5 threes. 4 of those games, she hasn't even hit one. It's just not her go-to shot, right? She's not a three-point specialist. Now, the one thing that is a little concerning here, if we look at the Aces and their three-point defense this year, it's been a little shaky, man. They're just middle of the pack overall for three-pointers made. But if we look at them against forwards, it gets a little scary. They're third to last as far as three-pointers are made, man. So that one's a little scary there. And then at that minus 154, kind of a risk, man. But you look down here, and it feels a little better. So not sure I get here with this one, but I did want to mention it. Even though it is juice, man, it could be a good parlay piece for someone as well. So I did want to make sure that I bring this one up as well. And then the second game is going to be the evening game at 8 o'clock, looking at the Sun versus the Lynx. And the Lynx are favored by 8. We have an over-under of 154.5. And look, in the second matchup, we have the 2-seeded Lynx hosting the 3rd-seeded Sun. And man, I'm telling you, even though the Liberty and the Aces will probably steal most of the headlines, being the rematch from last year's WNBA Finals, this should be a fun one as well. Like I said earlier in the video, both these series are going to be really, really good. And if you've been watching the WNBA all year, man, you're probably just as excited as I am. This is going to be a great, great series. Both of them, but I feel like this one's probably going to be more entertaining to watch. I don't know. I could say the same thing probably for the Liberty and Aces. So yeah, both of these are going to be great series. But these two, they've met 3 times, and the Sun won 2 of those 3. But each game was tightly contested. All 3 of them, right? Only 8 combined points separating the two between all 3 of those games. That's why I feel like this is going to be such a great series, man. Like, they're so tightly contested. That just, the talent between these two teams, it plays off of each other well. It's going to be a good one, man. It's a very, very tight matchup, right? The Sun are going to be without Tiffany Mitchell for this one for the 19th straight game. She's suffering from abdominal abscesses. That sounds horrible. And they have Tasha Harris listed as questionable with an ankle injury. So their depth at guard could be challenged for real. Harris did miss Connecticut's prior Game 2 win over the Fever as well. And it forced the Sun to move Marina Mabrey from that 6th-player role into the starting lineup. So the depth is definitely, a cause for concern if Harris does end up missing this one as well. Both of these teams finished in the top 5 for offensive rating, with the Lynx 1 spot ahead of the Sun. And they were top 3 for defensive rating, with the Sun 1 spot ahead of the Lynx. The Sun were 2nd for net rating, the Lynx 3rd. Minnesota is scoring from deep at the 3rd highest rate, while the Sun score from inside the arc at the 4th highest rate. The Lynx are making the 3rd most threes in the W and doing so at the highest shooting percentage from deep. Thing is, nothing comes easy against this Connecticut defense, man. We've learned that throughout the course of the year. They give up the fewest made threes at the 2nd lowest shooting percentage. Here's the thing, though. The Lynx are stellar at the defensive end as well. They give up the 2nd fewest made threes at the lowest shooting percentage overall. In fact, the Lynx are holding opponents to the lowest shooting percentage from the field overall on the entirety of the year. The problem with all this is, especially looking at that for the perimeter defense that Minnesota has, the Sun don't rely on the deep ball. Outside of Mabrey and Bonner, the Sun don't shoot a ton of threes. They're sitting at 2nd to last in terms of attempts per game. Where they could potentially hurt Minnesota is in the paint. That's where they put up the fourth most points per game in the league, and the Lynx sit just 7th in terms of defending points scored from the paint. Minnesota gives up the 2nd most offensive rebounds, which could also pose more potential problems, as the Sun sit at 2nd in terms of second chance points. The Lynx get out on the break, and they score the 3rd most fast break points and the 2nd most points off of turnovers, but the Sun are 1st in terms of points given up off of the break and 2nd when looking at points given up off of turnovers. They have been efficient with the ball this year, man. They turn it over at the 3rd lowest rate. The Lynx, on the other hand, sit at 7th in turnovers, and the Sun are 1st in the W in terms of points scored off of turnovers. So, all in all, man, this is a tough one to call sidewise, but I loved the addition of Marina Mabrey at the trade deadline. I spoke about that really just many times since then, right after it happened, and many times since then. I even caught a little bit of hate in the comments when I talked about it right after that trade happened, man, before she played her first game with the Sun. You can look back and read on that if you want, man. Someone said she was a cone on defense. Someone else said she's inconsistent on the offensive end. Look, I'm a big fan, man, and I had this feeling that she'd mesh with this gritty Sun team and provide them with a scoring punch they were missing before. And so far, this has proven true. I liked Mabry with the Sky. I was really like, I don't really have a favorite team in the WNBA. I got players that I follow, and I have been this way for a while. I liked the Sparks when I was younger. I'm a Laker fan, so like when I was a kid, I followed the Sparks. They had Lisa Leslie. Like that was the team, man. They were winning. Ships, right? They were a squad. But as the years gone on, man, like don't have that same like loyalty to any WNBA team. I just followed players, man. But I was really starting to like the Sky. I liked Mabry. I like Angel Reese. He had Kennedy Carter tearing it up. Lindsey Allen looks great, right? I was liking that team, and then when they traded Mabry, I was like, I don't like that. Now they fired Teresa Weatherspoon too. I don't like that, man. That's a whole nother topic, right? We're talking about Mabry here, and like I said, man, I thought this would be huge for the Sun, and I think it has been, right? She gives them an edge, and I definitely see a way for me to get behind the Sun here in this game. I just don't know that I have the courage to pull the trigger on the money line, though, especially if I can catch them with 4 points, right? I can get the Sun with 4 points, especially considering the only time this season a game between these two was decided by this kind of margin was a 5-point Connecticut victory. And we can get them with 4.5 points even at MGM for -110. So with all that in mind, I'm looking at the Sun catching the points here. And once again, check the pinned comments. This one will probably be right down there in the pinned comments before the video even uploads. Just being real with you. I'm probably going to place that as soon as I get done with this. The fact that I can get them with 4.5 points at -110, I like that a lot. But for this total, the number is low, and it makes sense considering the defenses both teams bring to the table. But in their last 10 at home, the Lynx are hitting over this line at a 60% rate. The Sun on the road in their last 10 are also hitting over this mark at a 60% clip. When Minnesota has played at home versus the Sun, we've seen these two go over this mark 5 of the last 6 times. So I'm slightly leaning over for this one, but with these defenses, I'll imagine it just stays a lean. We could jump back over here to Outlier. Let's look at Alana Smith of the Lynx. Her points under 9.5. Now, we can get this at Prize Picks for -119, but like I said, if you don't have Prize Picks, never fear. You can get this at FanDuel for -120. Now, if we look at this insight from Outlier, she's failed to exceed this 9.5 points in 8 of her last 10 games versus top 5 defenses for points allowed. That's an 80% rate or hit rate that she's hit under this mark. If we look at her in her last 5, she's also hitting under this mark at a 80% rate. A lot of green down there. We can just keep pushing it back to check on the consistency of this pick. 7 of her last 10 she's hit under. Even in her last 20, she's hit at a 60% rate. 12 of her last 20. A little more red down there than we like to see. But head-to-head, she has also hit under this mark at a 6 out of 9 rate, 67% clip. Now, the thing that's a little bit concerning is 2 of the 3 games this year versus the Sun, she has gone over. Okay? And one more thing that's a little concerning, right? Now, the Sun, points allowed overall, first against guards, first against forwards, first against centers, third to last. So a little bit concerning there, right? Definitely a little bit concerning. But, there are some numbers here that make it feel like this could be potentially a good pick. Maybe this is one that you look for an alternate, right? Maybe we juice that up just a little bit and we throw it in as a parlay piece again, right? So, like I said, a little bit of risk here, but definitely felt like it was good enough to bring up in the video as well. Now, guys, I do have one more prop that I want to talk about. But before we do, man, we are at that 24-minute mark, so it seems like a great time to comment 24 down below and comment your favorite player of all time wearing 24. Now, I kind of had to do this one here because my favorite player of all time in any sport happened to wear 24, man. Kobe Bean Bryant. RIP to the Mamba. Greatest ball player of all time for me, anyways, in my generation, in my lifetime. Obviously, Mike's the GOAT, man, but Kobe was my guy, man. Kobe was my guy indeed. So comment your favorite 24 down below, guys. Now let's get into this second prop. These props in this one, I can't lie to you, man. They do feel like there is a little bit of risk at play, man. I'm not too huge on both the props I found in these games. I wasn't huge on any of the props, really. These were the 2 best ones that I found. I'm looking at Bridget Carlton of the Lynx for points over 9.5. We can get this one on FanDuel for -118. I don't know why it's listed twice there. That's funny. You can also get it on Underdog at -120 as well. Now, look, here's where the concern comes in. We just talked about it. Connecticut, points allowed. They are first, right? She plays that forward position. They are first. But I mean, look at her head-to-head. We see that 23%. We don't like that at all, right? But if we look at her this year against the Sun, in those 3 games, she's hit over that mark 2 out of the 3 times, smacking at 12 points and 13 points in the last 2 meetings against the Sun. And then in her last 5 games, she's hit at an 80% rate, 4 of the last 5. And we can just keep pushing it back a little bit further, 70% in the last 10, 60% over the last 20. So, guys, that is going to wrap us up. I hope you guys enjoyed the content today. If you found it helpful or useful in any kind of way, please do not forget to smash that like button down there and hit subscribe if you haven't already. That way you don't miss out on any of the content that we are dropping over here daily. And, guys, like I said, we're dropping a lot of content daily. We got the MLB still going from Ev, and Tassos, WNBA from me, obviously. All 3 of us are dropping NFL content. Tasso's got college football coming out. So every single day you got multiple videos to choose from to help you with your betting and, to help you guys find the picks, help you guys gather information and make picks on your own. Just a lot of useful information, and we're giving it all out for free, guys. That's the best part. So like I said, it doesn't cost you anything. You ain't got nothing to lose, man. Hit that subscribe button. That way you don't miss out on anything. That's going to do it here, man. Hope we have a great day. Hopefully we cash again and keep that good streak rolling into this start these game ones for the semifinals, man. So I will see you guys on the next video. Best of luck. Have a good one.